There's so many people that actually don't know what to do after football.
In any sport.
In any sport.
Yeah.
And for me,
Tevaun Smith is a Canadian wide receiver who has competed at the highest levels in both the NFL and CFL. Born in Toronto, he played college football and was a standout at the University of Iowa. His journey from NCAA standout to pro football veteran is one of persistence and adaptability.
when people ask me like, how was college? I'm like, college was lit. Man, football is everything to me, honestly. I'm always trying to find ways to get better.
Yeah, no, you were early. You were outside waiting for me.
Yeah. If you're 10 minutes early,
Yeah, you're late.
you're late.
Yeah.
So
I used to get fined a lot for that.
Yeah.
Give me an example of something that you can't recreate anymore that you got from football. Shit.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of You Only Die Twice. I'm your host, Warren Ward, and in this episode we are joined by Tevaun Smith. Tevaun Smith is an 8-year football veteran. He played at the University of Iowa before going on to the NFL for 3 years, and after which he then played in the CFL for 5. In this episode, you're going to learn about what it takes to start a business you know nothing about in an industry you know nothing about, his inspiration for doing so, how his brother influenced him to go ahead and start that business. We also get deep about feelings that you can only experience through sport and things that we both will never get to recreate. But before we start, the best way to support this podcast is to like, comment, subscribe, and of course, share with a friend. And without further ado, let's get into it.
When this is gone, I die.
Okay, let's do it.
But yeah, no, I like to start with the why because I think anyone who watches this, it's most important. Like why are you here? We know why we're doing this, and I'd love to understand why you're here. Other than me asking you to be here, why is the topic of athlete transition and transition in general? Why is it important to you?
I think it's just, for one, there's so many people that actually don't know what to do after football, and like
In any sport.
In any sport,
Yeah.
right. And for me, once I've seen, I guess, the opportunity that's out there, I want to, at least bring that side out and, promote that there is opportunity outside of your sport. Because some people literally don't know what to do. And not to say that I've figured it out, but I'm just enjoying the process of figuring it out.
And you're currently going through that.
Currently going through that now.
How much has football shaped who you are?
Man, football is everything to me, honestly. I mean, I started playing basketball at first. Well, my first sport was soccer. I have a Jamaican background, so my dad.
It's the cheapest.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. So
Same.
he had me playing soccer, and I hated it. Then I started playing basketball. It wasn't too bad, and then kind of.
You wasn't good. Stop lying.
I was all right.
Okay.
I was all right. I played for Toronto 5-0 and Yace.
Okay.
So I was out there playing. I wasn't a starter all the time. I was like six man of the year.
Okay.
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 A little bit, I guess.
Yeah. I like that.
But I fell in love with football.
Why?
I think for me it was the challenge, because when I first started playing football, I actually couldn't catch. Like, they called me Butterfingers. Like that was I started off as Butterfingers, and it's funny because the quarterback for my very first quarterback, he ended up being my high school quarterback.
Oh, okay.
And his dad was the one that called me Butterfingers.
So you got called that all through high school?
No, I didn't.
Oh, okay. High school, you learned to catch.
High school, you couldn't tell me nothing.
Okay.
That was only for 1 year, but I think I fell in love with the challenge of someone telling me that like I had Butterfingers, and I'm like I'm gonna prove him wrong. Not that I hated him or anything. I was just like, okay, cool. I got a lot to work on.
Yeah.
So that was something that I took upon myself to work on as I got older. And I mean, maybe like 2 years later, that's when I was able to kind of get my routine and get used to catching the football.
Right. We had Arjun Kaku.
Yes.
I butcher his last name, so I'm just gonna say Arjun C. Good friend.
Yeah, Calhoun, I think it's called. I don't know.
Yeah, and it's different.
Yeah,
it's different.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna butcher the man's name out of respect. So he had him here, and he talked about. He said, basically, volleyball players, basketball players make good volleyball players, football players make good basketball, because no one wants to take the physical contact involved in football. Right. But you obviously relished in that. You didn't mind.
No, the physical side of it wasn't really an issue for me, to be honest. I don't know why. That wasn't something that I was like afraid of. I actually enjoyed, the rough play. I have a little brother, and we were always just, fighting or whatever. So I was just kind of used to the rough play, and that was never really a thing for me.
Take me through your footballing journey.
Man, like I said, I got called Butterfinger when I first played, and then when I got from little league into high school, that's when things started to kind of pick up for me. And the first school I went to was Central Tech, right here downtown. And I left after the first semester.
Like switch schools?
Switch schools.
Okay. Why?
Didn't like it there.
Okay.
For me, I was still playing like rep football at the time too, and a lot of those guys were at different schools. And at that time when I was going to Central Tech, there was a lot of fights. I caught myself getting in trouble, not really paying attention in school, and then I got in trouble a couple times. And a friend of mine, which is now one of the coaches for the Argos, but he said, "Hey, come over to Chaminade." It was an all-boys school. I was like, "No, I'm not going over there. It's all boys, right?" There's no girls.
Careful now.
But and then I went to school. The coach was very, very welcoming, and I can tell that they're really strict. And I felt like that was something I needed, a good structure. And I don't know what that was at a young age to tell myself like, I wanted that structure. For me, maybe it's probably just because I knew where I wanted to get to for football.
Yeah.
And that's when I went to Chaminade, and my high school coach was Pat Diodati. He was a guy that really helped me throughout my high school years, along with a track coach that was really strict. His name is Mr. Mativier. He was the strictest person. If you caught you in the hallway, you better run and get to class. And I feel like that's something I definitely needed. And then I had the support there. All the guys that I played with in Little League went there as well. And from there, I went to a prep school called Kent School in Connecticut, which was
after high school.
After high school. It was a post-grad year.
Okay. So fifth year.
Yes, exactly. So I went there, and it was in the middle of nowhere. Kent is just a school and a bunch of mountains around it, and there was nothing else.
Like nothing.
We didn't really leave campus. I had, roommates and friends that I went to school with there that I've built relationships with, and I would just go to New York, hang out with their families. Another friend, he lived in Nashville. I went out there with him with his family, and that's all I kind of did was just football and school.
Where is the school?
It's in Connecticut.
In Connecticut, yes.
Yes.
Okay.
And then from there, my high school coach at Chaminade was sending out a bunch of tapes. And then if you look at my Canadian high school highlights, it just looks like unfair. It looks like the competition is not the best. And that's what coaches were saying, the competition is not good. We need to see them against better competition.
Right.
We had a really good school. We were one of the top schools in the country. But the schools that we were playing weren't the greatest in their eyes. So I was like, okay, cool. Another, going back to me proving myself from being called Butterfingers, I'm like, okay, I'm going to go down there and I'm going to be the best player on that team. And that's what I did. I went to Connecticut, played football there, and I was just like, I just never looked back. And that's when, the University of Iowa, along with a couple other schools, but the University of Iowa came down to fly to see me. The head coach, Kirk Ferentz, he's still there now, and my wide receiver coach, Eric Campbell, they both flew out to Kent School in the middle of nowhere to come see me.
Mm-hmm. And then you end up going there?
Yeah, ended up going to University of Iowa. I didn't redshirt, so I played as a true freshman at Iowa. I wanted to get there and just play right away. Didn't play in the beginning of the season, but I played a little bit. And my sophomore year is kind of when things kind of picked up for me. And then junior year to senior year kind of just, I guess that's when things kind of took off from there as well. So, that's kind of like my high school to college story. And then I got the chance to get signed to the Indianapolis Colts as an undrafted free agent after my senior year.
Okay.
After a 12-0 season, we actually played Arjun in the Big Ten championship.
Okay.
which was pretty dope. And then, I had a cup of tea with the Oakland Raiders at the time. I was just there for literally 2 weeks.
Okay.
That's a whole nother story. But then I ended up playing in Jacksonville. But as I was with the Colts, I got drafted in the first round by the Edmonton Eskimos at the time, but now they're called the Elks.
Right.
So
it's kind of crazy that you can play in the NFL and be drafted in the CFL.
Exactly. Right. I actually didn't even know I was drafted because I was studying during rookie minicamp, and I got a call and saying like, "Hey, we're drafting you, first round, whatever." And I was getting texts like, "Congrats, bro, congrats!" And I saw the videos, so I was like, "Oh shit, I got drafted." Like I knew it was gonna happen. I just wasn't paying attention because I was just so locked in and studying and trying to stay on the team with the Colts. And So and then I also was with Jacksonville after that, and then that's when I finally came to the CFL in 2019.
Right.
And then I had a career out here for 5 years.
You talked about something a little earlier. You talked about being strict. You had a lot of like people with structure. Do you find that still applies now? Like you're still strict with yourself? Did you find when you got to college, when you got to pro, you still had that mentality? You still had that structure and like, I guess, strictness?
Yeah, I think that's from the time I got to Chaminade, that's when that started. I know that like, they knew what I was there for, so they made sure that I took school serious. They made sure that I took football serious. And then when I went to Kent, it was even stricter than that. Mm-hmm. And
for yourself or with the other people around you, like holding you accountable?
All of that.
Mm-hmm.
The coach was very strict, like probably one of the hardest coaches that's ever coached me. And then from the first day I walked into the University of Iowa, it was like super strict. Yeah. So like that's all I knew leading up. It just got stricter and stricter as I got older.
Yeah.
So
the leash got shorter.
Yeah, the leash got much shorter. So that for me that was just ingrained in me from then. You know, and then I just took that on until now. Even now I'm always trying to find ways to get better.
Yeah, no, you were early. Like you were outside waiting for me.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't like messing with people's time.
Right.
And I think that's important. If you're 10 minutes early,
yeah, you're late.
You're late.
Yeah.
Right.
So I used to get fined a lot for that.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't want to get fined.
Nah, no,
you don't want to get fined. Once they start taking your money, you start taking it more serious.
They did.
Yeah.
I was at home on Thursday, and I want to tell you a story. Okay. I was at home on Thursday. My parents have a picture of me in their house. It's in my third year. We're playing at U of T, and it's the first time I scored 40. Okay, in a game. I had 41, an efficient night too, like 13 for 16, like didn't miss. Mm-hmm. First time my godfather saw me play. First time my aunt saw me play ever live, and crazy game. We win the game, and the last three I hit, I have a photo in the house, and it's like I'm like this, and I'm looking this way, and someone captured it, and like that was my graduation photo. Mm-hmm. And I was talking to my parents, and we were discussing. I was like, you know what, Mom? I was like, because my mom brought it up, and we're talking about the game and all that stuff, and she said, "Aunt, this, that," and she goes, I said to her, I'll never get that again. Like, I'm sure making a lot of money would feel great. I'm sure, having millions, driving a nice car, doing all the things that people aspire to do. But technically, anyone can do that. Anyone has the potential to do that. Anyone here could be a multimillionaire tomorrow and get a car and get the watch and the chain, all the things, all that nonsense, right? But I can't recreate that. Like, I look at that photo and it's just a memory etched in my head. There's nothing that I can do to recreate the feeling I felt during that time. And it felt amazing. Mm-hmm. So my question to you is, give me an example of something that you can't recreate anymore that you got from football.
There's two things. The first one was my senior day, my last home game at the University of Iowa. Mm-hmm. And that was, I think, it might have been the first time that my mom and my brother got to see me like play. I'm gonna get emotional about this one.
No, that's okay.
'Cause everything was just on TV, right? And like, I know that they really, really, really loved to see me play, right? And just to like come out on the field for like the last time.
It's a lot. It's a lot. Yeah. I know. I know. I know. I know. Shit. Now you got me.
Like,
I know.
that picture is like still in the house.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I know.
And I remember that feeling like when I came out and the fans were just,
Screaming, yeah.
you know, like 90,000, just like yelling your name, and it's your senior day and you see like you're walking out that tunnel, you see your family just out there, like I have my rose in my hand, I got my mom,
And your brother?
my brother,
Yeah.
you know.
I know, man.
And like I cherish those moments now, because like at the time, like life was moving so fast.
Yeah.
And then I'm like appreciating, you know, all the moments that, because I forget.
I know.
I
Me
forget.
too.
Because like a lot of my, the moments that like a lot of these guys remember that I played in high school, I do not remember.
Same.
Remember when you scored that touchdown against and then you did this? I'm like,
Nope.
don't even remember. But that's in the office of my mom's office in the room, and she's got, it's like my jersey, and me and my brother and my mom just smiling, and that was a huge moment. I believe I scored a touchdown that game, and that's when they really realized that like, oh, like they actually really like him out here.
And you're good.
Yeah, they
All the
really
time
like
you
him
put
out
in,
here. Like,
yeah.
oh, you're Tevaun's mom.
Yeah.
Oh, you're their family. I didn't even know. They took them home. Somebody brought them home to my house.
Oh, wow.
Saying, oh, we'll take care of you. My brother tells me, he's like, I didn't realize that like they liked you so much, because when you came out, like, you know, there's obviously other players, but when you came out, it was just like you're signing a bunch of autographs, signing babies, all this other stuff, and he's like, I didn't know until I actually got there and saw that, and I think that was cool, because at the time, like, he was younger. Now he's 24.
Yeah.
But when now
understands.
he wasn't able to like, he understands now more, but he wasn't able to like come to Iowa City and go out with me and see how it was to kind of, you know, when people ask me like, how was college? I'm like, college was lit.
You the
College
man,
was
man.
so lit.
You the man.
And I played with so many great players, like to this day, like, you know, just still playing. Like anybody's like, oh, you know that guy? I'm like, yeah, I played with him. He went to like George Kittle. Yeah, we came in together, and he's like one of the faces of the NFL now.
Yeah, that's dope.
Micah Hyde, Christian Kirksey, Anthony Hitchens. He's got a couple Super Bowls. Carl Davis, all these guys that I played with, and it was just a cool moment to kind of, you know, for me. And then the next moment was, I mean, a lot of Iowa fans, like, it was actually the Big Ten Championship where we played Origin. I scored an 85-yard touchdown.
I seen that.
To lead.
What'd you do after you scored the touchdown?
I did a little dab. That's when the dab.
Not a little dab. I think you almost broke your head on your arm.
That's when the dab was very, you know, the dab was popular.
It was a crazy touchdown.
But yeah, that was also like a big moment of mine, especially in college. You know, for the Iowa fans as well. And to this day, whenever it's 4 days to kick off, they're posting that.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, people are always saying it was the greatest moment that they've seen. And for me, I'm just like, yeah, but we lost. But like now that I'm done, like I'm actually like embracing that, right? I'm always like, all right, what's next? All right, what's next? But like now that chapter is, you know, closing, it's a little bit, you know, you have to take a moment and kind of look back and say, you know, I got to cherish that. I got to, you know, appreciate all the stuff that I've done.
Because you'll never get it again.
You'll never get it back.
You'll never get it again. And I have so many of those, you know. I talk about that a lot. Even I talked about it last night. I was like, you know, when I went overseas, I thought that was the dream. Like, and it was my dream. I never wanted to be in the NBA or any of that. I didn't think I was good enough, to be honest. So just getting to Europe and then realizing as soon as I got there, I want to be somewhere else. Like being in Europe wasn't good. Like being in the first league in Germany, top league in Germany wasn't good. I need to be in the Euro League now. And that's good to have those goals and ambitions, but sometimes you got to like be where your feet are and appreciate it. Cause now I do, now I'd be like, that was a great part of my life. Like something I'll never get to recreate the same feelings that I once had. And like I said, I'm sure other areas of life I'm going to excel in and I'm going to do well. But those days, I can't recreate that, man.
Cannot.
That's what makes it so special.
Yeah.
The average NFL career is 3.5 years.
Yeah.
So you have to have a belief at a young age, same way I did, that all the statistics don't apply to you.
Yeah.
Right? Like, when I was growing up, and I'm sure for you, it was like basketball, only the top 1.1% of people make it. And they give you all the stats, how many people play and how many people get to make it. So you have to have this belief that none of that shit applies to you.
Yeah.
Do you still have that mentality, and how do you carry that over today? Because even with what you're doing now, you started your own business, you have to believe that none of that applies to you, because having a business is hard. They say 80 or 70% of businesses fail, 70% of marriage, everything fails apparently.
Yes.
So you have to believe that none of that applies to you.
I feel like I'm realizing it more now that I am in business, of how cutthroat it can be. And I'm like, it's literally like sports. Like, you can go to a team, and if you don't perform, you're gone.
Yep.
Then they're on to the next.
Yep.
Same thing in business. If you're not performing, you're gone.
Yeah.
Right? Or somebody else is gonna, there's somebody out there better than you. And that's the same thing in sport. Like, you have to work on that craft. You have to study it. You have to make sure that, you come with a positive attitude every day, even though it's hard. Even though it's hard. And like, I started my trucking business with my brother, and it's not the easiest. It's definitely not easy, but you got to.
When you say the easiest, what do you mean? Like what's difficult about it?
It's very competitive, and two, you're always gonna have to pivot, right? In business in general, right? So for me, right now, there's the business itself is kind of declining a little bit.
Okay.
Canada Post striking.
Yeah, that affects your business.
That affects the business. For some people, they can then hire you can get hired as an owner operator as well. But at the end of the day, like, it's so expensive now. Everybody's trying to cut costs.
Always.
Everybody's trying to cut costs, and with cutting costs means cutting people or cutting businesses out.
Yeah.
So I'd say that's one of like the hardest things. But like I said, like, you gotta every morning I wake up, it's just like, just be positive. Like, it's gonna happen. Because if you think that it's not gonna happen, then it just won't happen.
Yeah.
Like, literally, if you wake up and you're like, it's like, no, it's gonna happen. It's gotta be patient. I'll talk to myself every day, like, just be patient. It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. And things have happened. Same thing with football. Like, I can't control what other people are gonna do. So I gotta come and approach my day with 100%. And if it doesn't work out my way, at least I know that I put in everything that I was supposed to, everything that I put in, right? If I put in 100%, that's all I can do.
You can live with that.
And I can live with that.
Yeah.
And then from then, I can move on, right? So that's how I apply in sport, in life. Everything I do is I'm just gonna give everything my all, and then all the other stuff that I can't control, just move on and pivot.
Yeah. We'll get back to football in a second, but I know what you do. But for those who probably don't, who are going to watch this, what is your business and when did you start it?
I'm in trucking logistics. I have a 3-box trucks. I started it in 2022 with my brother.
So 2 years old, yeah.
Yeah, going on
pandemic
3.
baby.
Yes.
Yeah.
I started that with my brother. My brother's been working with my uncle part-time from since he was 14 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all he knows, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, as I was getting, older within, the football side, there was a point in time in 2018. I guess we can get back to the football side of that, but trucking was one thing that I put on my list of writing things I wanted to do.
And what were the other things?
I wanted to open up a recovery center.
Dope.
And the other one was real estate. I wanted to get into real estate. I did 2 out of the 3 real estate and trucking. The recovery center, pivoting.
Patience.
We'll see how that one goes. 'Cause I'm working on some other things along with other than that. But when we started it, it wasn't the easiest. But I knew that he knew a lot about trucking because he's been with my uncle for years. So that's kind of like how we started. I said, learn as much as you can from him for at least another 6 months to a year, and I'm going to put you in a truck. And that's kind of how everything kind of started. And then we went from 1 to 2, and then from 2 to 3, and now we're just coasting, pivoting, adjusting to the market, and just working on that.
Okay. We'll get back to that in a second.
Yeah.
I want to know the differences between the NFL and the CFL, because you played quite some time in the CFL.
Mm-hmm.
So what are the differences?
The field's much bigger in the CFL.
Okay.
The end zone is bigger as well. The goal post is in the front of the end zone in Canada, and in America it's in the back.
Mm-hmm.
In America there's 11 players. In Canada there's 12.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
Yeah, there's motions where you can get a 10-yard running start in the CFL, but it's not like that in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
And I think those are really the main things.
Okay.
The main things. There's a lot of other things that there's like the rouge and all this other stuff that you can kick it through the end zone and get a point.
Yep.
Without but anyway, but those are the main things.
And what about like the physicality and the athletes? Because I hear apparently they said that there's no real difference.
No, I mean there's a few guys that I've played with in the NFL that became teammates in the CFL, or I played against them, and they were great NFL players, and they're also great CFL players. So the talent is there. It's not obviously you have your Tom Brady's or whatnot, but there's a lot of great players in the CFL as well that played in the NFL and just either got hurt. Mm-hmm. Or just never got the opportunity, right? Yeah, I mean, these 2 leagues are just literally like opportunity. Like, I mean, it's probably like that for basketball too. I mean, I'm not 100% sure, but I'm sure there's a lot of guys overseas that can play in the NBA.
Oh yeah,
right,
no, for sure,
so,
for sure. But there's so many more leagues in basketball.
Exactly.
Football,
there's not many.
There's just 2. And
yeah,
it's
2 main ones. Exactly.
Yeah, 2 main ones. Just a revolving door of people. 3.5 year career, you're either in that one or you're in the other one, and it's hard to make a legitimate living.
Right.
And you played how long?
I played 3 years in the NFL and 5 in the CFL.
Okay. When you introduce yourself to people now, how long before football comes up in conversation? Do you bring it up, or do people usually ask you?
I don't bring it up
at all.
No.
You don't talk about it?
Not really.
So when people ask you, what do? You say, I'm entrepreneur?
Well, if they ask, so what do you do? I say, well, I used to play football.
Okay.
Okay. And now I'm in business.
Okay. Fair.
Yeah.
So you don't lead with that at all?
No.
Okay.
Think I should?
Not that I think I should. It's just sometimes I feel like with athletes there could be a little bit of pain there. It could be a soft spot. So me personally, I don't. People ask me all the time, so I don't have to go out and say yes. I played basketball.
Yeah.
But, I think I don't really talk about that as the first thing I say.
No,
and then maybe not even the second or the third.
Right. If they bring it up, I'm totally open to talk about it. I have no.
And then I don't shut up once you ask me.
Yeah, exactly. I'll be like, I did this, I did that, and then that's about it. And they're like, oh, really? And then they start asking questions.
Exactly.
So that's
I dabbed after,
Right.
In your Instagram, even when I Googled you, your IG says I'm an 8-year pro. In your Instagram, why is that in your handle?
Well, I don't talk about it, but I display it that I did play football.
Right.
And I've learned that, you know, just because I'm done doesn't mean that I can't build off of what I've created, right?
Yeah.
And that also could open some other doors too.
Absolutely.
So, you know, because I played for 8 years, I think that's one, you know, it's a pat on the shoulder to myself, but at the same time, you know, it's kids look up to you, you know, other friends, you still have fans that are just like, whatever happened to him? I was like, oh, I didn't even know he was playing in the CFL. I didn't know he played 5 more seasons after he left. So I think that's very important, just to, you know,
it's validating.
It's definitely validating for sure. So yeah.
One of the reasons why I asked the question, one of the things I've found is that with athletes who post on Instagram just their athletic highlights, when that stops, they disappear.
Yes.
Bro, you know, I don't post anymore.
Yeah.
No, it's not that you don't want to post anymore.
Yeah.
You just don't have the same type of content. You're not getting the same feedback from your content. And I know we pretend like it doesn't matter, but it does.
Definitely.
And I find that's what most athletes do, is that they stop posting. And the challenge is to recreate whatever and have value in whatever it is that you want to post, regardless of the likes or the shares and all the other stuff that doesn't matter. It's like this is a representation of you. And I find that a lot of athletes, especially now, it's harder now. It's all you've been posting basketball for 5 years, and then you stop.
Right.
You know, it's tough.
It is.
Or football or whatever. You've been posting this for years.
I mean, some just delete the Instagram.
Yeah.
and
facts.
And now you can see who deactivated their Instagram. It's like a list of like restricted or wherever it is. You can see it. Yeah, I just learned that like a couple days ago.
Okay.
But yeah, and I'm like, I didn't even know he deactivated his Instagram. No wonder I haven't seen him lately, right?
Yeah.
So it's crazy.
Enough about that. Well, I want to know, like, when you were already thinking about your transition out of sports while you were still playing football.
Yeah.
So when did that initial thought come to mind, and starting your business while being an active? So you were going to practice, and you were active on a roster while playing football. What was the challenges with your schedule?
The CFL schedule is not as strict as the NFL schedules. So when I got to the CFL, you know, it goes from 9 to about 1 to 2 o'clock. So every day.
Okay.
You're only allowed a certain amount of hours. They're only allowed to have you for a certain amount of hours. And because of that, I was able to take the extra time to do other stuff. Other than recovery and waking up early and, you know, working out, I had like the evening off. So once I was done studying, I was able to get on my laptop and kind of do my thing on there. But what got me into like the entrepreneurship stuff was my college roommate. One of my best friends, he was my very first roommate in college, and for him, he didn't play football at the next level, so he got into entrepreneurship, and that was like motivating for me. And just seeing like his growth definitely motivated me and wanted me to like continue to work on, you know, the entrepreneurship side of myself.
You ever see yourself working for anybody else, or that wasn't an option for you?
I don't think it's an option for me, but I'm open to it. I mean, it just depends on the situation. Like if it's a company that I'm working for that's making me a lot of money and I add a lot of value, and I see, you know, that type of validation back, then yeah, I don't mind. But I'd rather work for myself at the moment. You know, and I feel like as an athlete, you are your own brand. So
kind of been doing it for a while.
Exactly. So it's like, as of right now, I'm still my own brand, and I still want to, you know, be independent, and work on my own business.
Would you recommend that to other athletes?
No. I mean, it just depends. I don't. If you can do it, yes, because entrepreneurship is not for everybody.
No.
You know, some people are okay with, you know, just working for somebody, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's definitely nothing wrong with that. There's structure. You don't need to build your own structure. There's somebody that tells you have to be at work at this time, and if you don't, like, you're gone, or they give you a task. Sometimes you can be an entrepreneur and just be, I'm not gonna listen to a podcast here. I'm not gonna learn. I'm not gonna read. I'm just gonna work on my business. When I'm done, I watch Netflix. Right? So it just depends on what you're able to kind of, I guess, put together for yourself. You can build that structure for yourself, then yeah, 100% do it.
One of the skills that I think is very underrated as an athlete is decision making, because you have to make a lot of decisions at a young age that affect the rest of your life. So how do you identify like promising opportunities now as a business owner? Like what is your metric? Same thing you probably apply to football. Like, what's the best school to go to? How do you make decisions?
Faith. I've learned to just continue just trying, continue just like, just attempting. And if I fail, I fail.
Yeah.
So I don't even, whenever I try and do things, I just try it. And if it doesn't work out, it just doesn't work out. I don't, and I'm going to learn as much as I can. And then when I start it, it either works or it doesn't.
Yeah.
I don't really think too much into that side of stuff, to be honest. I know the effort and time that I can put into it. So as long as I put the effort and time into it, it's either going to work or it doesn't.
Yeah. You'll get an outcome.
Yeah, you'll definitely get an outcome. You'll figure it out whether it's something that you want to do or you don't.
No, I agree. I mean, trying is half the battle.
Yeah.
With anything.
Right.
I say it's the majority of the battle, actually.
Exactly. Yeah.
I relate to that heavily. I think that's pretty much all I've done too, is try things, and honestly try them without try not to have an attachment to the outcome.
Yes.
Even with podcasting, like trying it as we have now.
Yeah.
Without getting too cloudy.
Yeah.
Without thinking about what's going to come from it or what can come from it.
Yeah. I think a lot of people are like afraid of failing.
Well, yeah, it's because no one glorifies that.
Yeah, but all these business owners that you meet, they're like, yeah, I've had all these wins, but if I tell you all the fails that I've had,
yeah. Well, it's called trial and error for a reason, right?
Exactly.
We forget the error part.
Exactly. So, I mean, just try.
Yeah. What are some of the setbacks you faced as an athlete, and as a business owner?
As an athlete, getting hurt.
What happened?
I tore my meniscus twice. So I tore it in my senior year of high school. Senior year of college. And I came back in 2 weeks.
Yeah, that'll happen at that age.
Yeah. And then that was in 2015. 2018, it happened again. Same knee, same side. And that's the year I took the year off. And that was the time where I was like, well, if football doesn't work out for me, what am I going to do? Like, in 2018.
So, sorry to interrupt you. So, prior to that, you'd never thought about that? You never thought, you were like, football's going to work for me before that?
I knew that football was going to end.
Okay.
But at the time, I was like, oh, I'm going to keep playing.
Yeah.
Like, I was only, at that time, I was only in my third year.
Okay.
So, I was like, oh, yeah,
I'm good.
Like things were going well. Like I tore my groin when I was with the Colts, and then I came back and I had a bunch of workouts for teams. Every week I had a workout. I was flying to New England. I was flying to Dallas. I flew out to New York with the Jets. Like I had a bunch of workouts. I knew there was opportunity for me. 2018 happened, and that's when I didn't get any calls.
Yeah,
I didn't get many calls, and I was like, okay. That's when that really hit me. I was like, okay, well, what if this happens for an entire year?
Right.
So that happened, and that's when I had that. I wrote that down, and wrote those three things down, and tried to figure out, okay, if this doesn't work out, what can I transition and do, right?
Tell me about a time where you had no idea what you were doing.
Where I had no idea. I guess when I just got hurt, because at the time, when in 2018, when I got hurt, I was put in a hotel. I won't say the team, but I was put in a hotel, and it was during OTAs. So it was just
What's OTAs?
OTAs, like off-season,
okay.
off-season training for, the NFL before training camp.
Mm-hmm.
So we were in that period, and everybody's able to go home for like a month before they come back for training camp. I got hurt during OTAs, and everybody went home, and I was put in the hotel, and they wouldn't allow me to go home, so I had to do rehab. Usually when you do rehab, you do it at the facility. Not for me. This team had us at like a rehab center, but it wasn't for athletes. It was at a hospital.
Oh shit.
So, I was in there, and there was a couple other athletes, but I noticed that over time, I was like, it was 3 of us. Then there was 2, and then there was 1. It was just me.
Yeah.
And I was just like, all right. Well, I called my agent. I was like, listen, like, can I do my rehab somewhere else? Because I feel like I was at like a old folks like home kind of, because it was just like they were trying to get me ready just to walk again. And I'm like, no, I play football. Like, I need to train. So the stuff that I was doing, hey, can I do the ladder? Can I work on the ladder today? No, not yet. We're like 2-3 weeks, maybe 4 weeks into this now. And I'm like, okay, it's about to be 6 weeks. What are we doing? Like, why am I still doing entry level stuff like all these 60-year-olds? Like, like I couldn't understand it. And so I took it upon myself to like go to like a Planet Fitness, and I was getting rehab exercises from like other friends and that like out here, like doctors and whoever, just to give me some more exercises, because I'm like, I've done this before. I did it in college. You had me going to rehab one time throughout the day. I want rehab twice a day. I want to do recovery. I need all this stuff. And I just wasn't getting access to that. Mm-hmm. So I started going to a gym to do that. Maybe a couple weeks later, I got a text and said like, hey, we saw or heard that you got a gym membership. And I'm like, how do you guys even know that? Right? So maybe a couple weeks after that, mind you, like, I'm not even ready to, like, my leg is skinny. Like, there's no strength in my leg. I got no muscle. And I'm just like, at that point, I was very like, I was kind of depressed. I was like, yo, I literally don't know what to do, because you're not allowing me to go anywhere else. I can't go to a actual facility to do my rehab. So now, as I'm like, trying to do my own thing at the other gym, a couple weeks later, or maybe a week later, I get a call saying, okay, we're gonna have you come in, we're gonna do some things, or whatever the case is, right? And after my surgery, and all that, he has me come to his office, and this is like, I don't know what I'm doing. He's like, we're gonna do a checkup. I go into his office, and he says, all right, can you do a squat for me? So I did a squat, 2 squats. He's like, all right, can you hop on one leg, hop on the next? I got this far off the ground. And he goes, from a medical standpoint, like, I'm going to clear you. I said, clear me? I said, you haven't seen me run any routes. You haven't seen me do anything physical, really. All I've been doing was step-ups and jogging on the treadmill. My knee is not ready yet. And he just looks at me. He's like, you got to talk to your agent, but like, from a medical standpoint, we're going to clear. I said, no, you guys are cutting me today. And he just looked at me and just was like, you got to talk to your agent. And that's at that moment, I was like, man, listen, I've done everything. I'm trying to do the extra work, and it's kind of like I'm getting penalized for what, you know, for trying to get better.
So they kept you there to cut you, essentially.
I don't know. I'm not gonna say that. That's what it feels like, but that's kind of what happened with them.
Interesting.
So at that point, I was like, I literally don't. That's when I started writing that stuff down. Like, man, like, is my knee even gonna get healthy? Like, because then once they released me, there was nothing. I had to file a grievance against them, and there were a bunch of grievances against them as well. But
it's cutthroat business, man, isn't it?
And that was the moment I was like, okay, bet.
Yeah.
Like I've seen. I mean, I'm not say I've seen it all, but at that point I was like, all right, cool. From then I never trusted anybody in business and anything. Like, I just knew, you know, I'm gonna work my ass off and control what I can control.
Yeah, because you never know.
Never know.
So speaking of that, your experiences within professional sports, how has it shaped you now as a business owner? You just talked about trust, so you don't trust anybody.
I don't trust anybody. It's just gonna take a lot for me to trust people, man. But you know, I'm always with open arms. I'm always, you know, always learning, always meeting new people. But when it comes to business, you just gotta. I'm realizing, like, you know, you just gotta be careful, right? You just don't know. Like, you know, we've gone in the trucking business. We've gotten contracts, done deliveries, never got paid for it, lost money, right? Companies, they tell you one thing, and then it's the opposite.
Yeah.
Right. And in sport, like, yeah, you know, you're gonna start. We
Yeah,
love
I
you.
know,
We
right?
this, we that, and then when you get there, like, you didn't tell me you had 5 more guys like me, or you didn't tell me that, you know, this was gonna be the guy that I was dealing with. So same thing in business, like, you didn't tell me that before. So now you're saying, oh yeah, we're letting you go because of this. And it's like, man, like, you literally just have to expect something to happen in business, because it's going to happen. It's not a matter of if, it's just a matter of when.
How do you view success?
Man, there's a few ways, but for me, like, I think success for me is just like being happy.
Well, what does happiness look like?
Happiness for me is just, you know, one, giving it my all every single day and creating that community around me that's going to get me better. And I feel like as long as you have, you know, the right people around you and you're able to build off of that and get better, and like, obviously from that comes success and happiness. Because, you know, if you're miserable, you could be successful and miserable, yes, but you know, my success is being happy, having a group of people around me, and building. That's how I look at success for me personally.
Okay. I find my definition of that has changed.
Yeah, I feel like it always changes. I know success to me is going to change. Success for me 10 years ago was
not what it looks like.
I'm going
today.
to NFL.
Yeah, big time.
And now that's done.
Yeah, I think success for me is just not being content with where I'm at, and not trying to reach behind for something that I might have lost, and ahead for something that's not here.
Yeah,
you know, always trying to figure out how to just be even keel.
Mm-hmm.
And I find that those times, that's when I'm the most successful. Things just come.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
No, for sure. I mean, being where your feet are.
Being where my feet are. Making sure everyone's healthy, family included.
Exactly.
Number one priority, health as well. Take care of that, and everything else to me is extra.
Yeah, and then for me, this is my first year being in Canada for like full time since high school.
Yeah.
So like, I'm appreciating, like, you know, family and everybody being happy around me too.
Right.
So yeah, for sure.
Same. And this is like you're now getting into that. You're officially about to be done.
Yes.
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 If you can.
Yeah.
I know you got some things to come out, but you're going through your transitional process right now.
I am.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's amazing. Well, thank you for sharing. To conclude, we play a little game.
All right.
It is called For Three. You can answer any questions with one word or one sentence.
Okay.
Some people like to drag it on a little bit. It's a
Yeah,
sentence
yeah.
can be a paragraph. It just depends on the question.
Try and keep it short.
There we go. Are you ready to play?
Yes.
Cool. Tevaun Smith's journey thus far has been. Finish the sentence.
Fun.
I would like to use another word. I was going to say inspiring.
Okay. I like that.
Football is. Finish the sentence.
Whew. Football is rewarding.
If every athlete could do one thing to prepare for where you're sitting right now and what you're about to go through, what would it be?
Get your foot in the door.
I like that.
Get your foot in the door. You would like me to elaborate on that one?
Sure.
I mean, I feel like, as an athlete, you meet so many people.
Yeah.
And you're just one text away, one phone call away from getting your foot in the door to wherever you want to be in life.
We've had many examples of that on this show. People who just reached out, LinkedIn, Dakota White did that. So completely agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I want to say thanks. Thanks for trusting us to tell your story. I'll be honest, we never had anyone get emotional on the show. So
wow.
It's a
I'm
big
a baby.
deal. Nah, because it got me that way too,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I was just asking you the question, brought up a lot of feelings for myself.
Yeah.
So it's really nice and humbling, and it's an honor for you to be as open as you were with us, and that's the point of this. That's the point. That's what we're trying to get across to other people, and you've helped that. We speak with the intention of being heard, and I'm very honored that you chose us to share and listen and have other people hear your story. So thank you.
No problem. No,
Okay.
I appreciate you
Cool.
having me here too.
No, absolutely.